Hi, Justine Lizzie here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I help empaths empower their intuition and connect to their soul so they can step into their true power. So hi, welcome, welcome, welcome. First thing I want to say is that if you love this content or you've been checking out my other videos, please subscribe to my channel so you are first notified when I have new videos coming out. I would really, really appreciate it. And also like this video. It lets me know what kind of content you guys really enjoy, okay? All right, so today's video is 3 things that could secretly be draining an empath's energy, right? So like I mentioned earlier, I work with empaths, right? And a lot of the times I'm giving the same overall advice, meaning, or guidance, we should say, of, the standard boundaries, not being in crowds, not watching the news, just shielding in place as protection strategies, because as an empath, as you guys know, if you've been following my channel, if people don't know, empaths are just highly sensitive beings. It's a temperament, and basically we absorb energy easily, more easily than a typical person. And we also have strong intuitive abilities, and we also have the tendency to feel more deeply than, again, the typical person, right? So that's what an empath is. So there are always those classic boundaries, shielding, not being in crowds, not watching the news, all of these standard things that people talk about how to protect your energy. What we don't talk about is, this video is going to go into 3 things that I see are always missed, meaning that they're not necessarily always talked about in the mainstream or when we're talking about empaths, and they're things that are little tweaks that we could do, look out for, and how we can managing our energy a lot easier just by knowing these 3 tips, essentially. So again, these are the things that go under the radar, we can say. So I wanted to put together a video to kind of make them very conscious and make them very mindful to you guys as empaths, right? So let's jump right into it. Let's go. So first things first, and this one I actually did a video on as well. So check out I will link it down below in the description, but check out my channel. I do have a video about this. So the first one is finding out what type of empath that you are, okay? So again, I have a video on the types of empaths. I would say there's about 10. I did a video on maybe 10, maybe 11. I did a video on about 8 of them. And a lot of people that I meet that are empathic, they don't know the type of empath that they are, which actually astonishes me, because knowing the type of empath that you are can really give you more personalized energy management skills. And what I mean by that is that not every empath is created the same, okay? So I gave you a kind of loose-ish definition that I usually go by of what an empath is, but not everybody, most people can fit into that category and really resonate with that as being empathic, but not every empath is created the same, okay? There are even, this probably is going to blow your mind, not all empaths are introverts. Some are actually extroverts as well, okay? So that is something that, blows a lot of people's minds, but it's actually very true. You don't have to just be an introvert to be an empath, okay? I know a couple of extroverted empaths in my life. So with that being said, knowing the type of empath that you are will let you know what exactly specifically tailored to you, what energizes you, and what drains you, essentially, right? So for an example, if you are an environmental empath, you know that and basically what an environmental empath is, or plant empath, sometimes it's called, you get more energized by plants. You love being in nature. Most of our environmental empaths work in this field as activists. They work as do you call them horticulturists? Is that right? I don't even know if that's right. But they work with plants, not all the time, and it doesn't have to be like their full-time job, but it's something that they are committed to doing. And usually, if you love plants that much, you are probably categorized as an environmental or plant empath, right? Same thing. So with that being said, you know that plants really energize you, right? And so not being in nature will definitely be something that you feel that you're lacking. And again, it's not, I promise you, not all empaths get energized by by nature. And yes, mostly human beings, we need nature, but mostly plant empaths and environmental empaths, they really, really, really need that. So if you identify as an environmental empath and you know that, right? And so if you figure out the type of empath you are, which by the way, it can be multiple, you'll know that when you're not, when you live in, I live in New York City. I think I made that clear at some point on my channel in one of my videos, is that there's not a lot of greenery, especially in some neighborhoods. Me, luckily, yes, I am near one. But for the most part, I'm near a park, which is great. And I actually did that purposely. but actually, side note, I don't necessarily connect to being a plant or environmental empath because for two reasons. I'm going off on a little tangent, but maybe this will give you guys more context. I kill every plant that I have. I do have a plant behind me now that you don't necessarily see. I'm sitting right in front of it. It's a snake plant. It's a miracle that's still alive. And my other thing is that I don't really, yes, I connect to nature, but again, I am more of a city person, and I don't necessarily like, being, I love mountains, yes, some hiking maybe in the woods and things like that, but I would never live there. I think it would actually drain me, right? So this is actually a good example of showing you what actually energizes you, what actually drains you. So, technically by knowing what you're not, could also be helpful as well. So basically, so that's a little example there, but yeah, so plant environmental, if you're feeling like, you guys are not getting into nature as much, if you guys feel like you don't have enough plants around and you're feeling a certain type of way and you feel drained, you know where to go to get energized, right? Same thing with animals, just swap it for plants and nature, right? So just swap it out. So I actually foster cats now. It's my new I like to call it hobby or intention since the pandemic, but I actually wouldn't consider myself an animal empath. Okay, I have a really hard time trying to communicate with my animals, what they need, connecting and making sure their needs are met. Obviously, the physical stuff, like I'm not neglecting my cats or anything like that, but I do know a lot of animal empaths that are extremely connected from a very young age to animals. They usually end up in animal rights. They usually end up in animal advocacy, trainers, veterinarians, things like that. So many animal empaths I know, and that actually energizes them. So when they're not around animals, that could actually drain them. So really, this is such an important one. I really encourage you guys. These are not the only empaths. Like I said, there's about 8 to 10. From my professional opinion, there are other spiritual teachers that say there are less than that amount. There's more than an amount. But it really is, go check out my video and see what resonates with you. And then you can have a better idea, again, what energizes you and what drains you, okay? So a lot of people forget this. Not all empaths are created equally. Not all empaths are exactly the same. We are very different, so different things will energize us and different things will drain us. And a good example, like I mentioned from the very beginning, introvert versus extrovert. Technically, crowds, and large parties and people are not going to be the same draining factors as somebody that's an introvert, right? So it's very important to get down to the specifics and really figure out, again, what drains you. And what energizes you. So that was one. Okay, number 2. This one a lot of people miss. I call this outside stimuli. So I already mentioned not watching the news is a very common thing I hear about empaths because we absorb that. And then also crowds, like I just mentioned. But again, sometimes that is actually energizing to an extroverted empath. But I'm actually talking about different things that make us sensitive. Meaning that sometimes we forget about lights, for example. I actually have a friend that's an empath that really can't have a lot of lights on. Like her house is always very dim. Doesn't have a lot of windows. That doesn't bother her. She likes it a little bit more dark in her house because the lights, she's really, really sensitive to light. Another one is smells, for example. I know another empath that can't even wear any cologne or perfume or whatever. They can't, or be around people like that. I live in New York City. I'm a little sensitive to that. Like if I'm sitting on the subway and somebody has like a heavy heavy dose of perfume or cologne on, I could really smell it and I try to move, and it could give me a migraine really quickly. So we forget about things like that. Noises too. I'm sorry to keep bringing New York City into this, but all of these things are can be found very rampantly throughout the city. But essentially noises, I don't even, maybe even heard an ambulance in the background. I don't even hear it anymore. So I'm not sensitive to noises because I live in New York City, but there's a lot of noises in New York City. So a lot of people don't really realize when they pick locations to live, if it is noisy, just any activity, like going to a bowling alley, for example, like is very, very noisy. So you would probably try to omit going to stuff like that where it's very, the balls hitting the pins, lots and lots of noise. Concerts, obviously, I cannot do concerts. It is so, and I put my boundary there where I say I can't go to a concert. It's too noisy. Like it really irritates me. I'm too sensitive to the sound being so loud. So there's a lot of different things. So you have to look at the senses, really, essentially, right, is what that is. And so you have to think about what is some outside stimuli that might be affecting you and might be draining you. And then again, at the same time, maybe some of these things really do energize you. For example, I actually love bright lights. I actually have my lights on all day long, essentially. I only shut them off at night. I like it when it's super bright. When I'm looking for apartments, I move maybe every couple of years. That's the first thing I look for is natural light. I love it so much. It energizes me. I love, even though I am in a place where I do experience the seasons, I do love warm weather. I love the sun beating down on me. I love it so much. It energizes me. So again, outside stimuli, different things that we're not paying attention to. One thing I want to add as well, I don't know if you guys noticed from these videos, I'm not necessarily a fashionista, and I really dress based on comfort, and I wear a lot of cotton, right? So that's touch, right? So I want to touch on touch, no pun intended, that I wear a lot of. This is pretty big. It's I wear like oversized clothes, and the reason I actually do that is because I hate the feeling of fabric on my skin for the most part. It really does bother me. I cannot dress for fashion. I have to dress for comfort. And that's part of what actually energizes me, is that when things are loose and baggy and comfortable, I feel energized, right? I feel very drained if I have to wear, and I have a problem actually. I remember going to Catholic school when I was younger, unfortunately. And no offense to any Catholics or anything like that, but I'm a recovering Catholic. I am not religious. I am spiritual. But with that being said, I always found it really disheartening that I had to wear something that I didn't feel comfortable wearing, and it really brought me down. It really put me in a nasty mood a lot of the times. And it's really just, people up from the outside would say, oh, it's really just clothes, but it's really not to an empath, right? So I didn't like the materials. I didn't like the way that it made me look. I didn't, a lot of that stuff just really, it bothered me when it touched my skin. I remember in the summertime, we had the option to wear these knit shirts, and it was so much better than those starchy shirts that I had to wear in the wintertime. Buttoned up, the button was like up to here. I could feel it on my neck. It was miserable. So now I wear baggy clothes. I try to wear cotton. I don't wear I wear sneakers for the most part, fashion sneakers or actual sneakers, anything that will make me feel comfortable, because that is what energizes me. And again, if I had to wear tight clothes all day or was told to wear a uniform that I didn't approve or anything like that, I would really feel miserable and I'd really feel drained, and it would affect my energy big time. So look at the senses. I'm calling this outside stimuli. So look into this. This is little things that we miss that could really be draining our energy. Okay, this last one is kind of common, but not really, because it definitely deserves to be on this list, because we're not necessarily seeing it as a drainer or a way to kind of manage our energy. And basically, I'm just calling it emotional burnout. Okay, so this is something that we're not mindful of. So this is the how I can help you syndrome. So as we all know, this is also a common thing that people talk about with empaths, is that we want to save everybody and we want to do our best to make sure everybody is okay, which is a very, very virtuous value to have, right? But there comes a time when it does obviously become draining, and we are not asking ourselves, are we doing this because we want to be needed, right? So a lot of times when we are trying to hold space for people, or trying to help them or save them, we're actually coming from and I would say a place of probably unhealed wounds or unhealed trauma, however you want to interpret it, of trying to be needed, right? So then it doesn't become about the other person, it becomes about us. And that is where I feel like it drains you. And where it could energize you is when you genuinely want to help and you have the energy to do so, right? So we have to really look at where we are getting emotionally burned out and why. Are we doing it because we want to be needed by somebody else, or are we doing it and coming from a genuine, authentic place where we do want to help other people? So the difference could be everything in whether our energy is drained or whether we get energized. So that is what we really need to be asking ourselves. So it's a big common thing. Again, I call it "how can I help you" syndrome. A lot of us have that. So it's really about intentions when it comes to that. So looking at the intention of why you want to be helping people, right? And that will make all the difference in your energy. Cool. Okay, so hopefully this was helpful to you guys. Quick video here. So these things could be secretly draining you, energizing you. It would be nice if it was energizing you. But once we're more mindful of these things, I guarantee that we'll have a better grasp on our energy. So these are not the typical things. So again, I wanted to make a video to make you guys more conscious, more mindful, and hopefully have a better life filled with joy and that energizes you, of course. Okay, thanks guys. Again, if you like this video, please like it or subscribe and would be nice. Subscribe to my channel for more content very similar to this. Okay, have a good one guys. Bye.